Hi guys, welcome back to Quack. Today I am going to show you guys some of my favorite rescues that I have and use it to kind of highlight some reasons why it's really dangerous and inhumane to dump domestic ducks in the wild. They are not wild ducks. Some people think that they can live and survive in the wild just as regular wild ducks like mallards can, and that is not in fact the case. So we're going to be going over that today and just kind of highlighting some of the main reasons why you shouldn't dump ducks in the wild. And in another video I will give you guys some resources to look at to rehome instead of immediately deciding to put them at your local pond. So stay tuned for that. Let's go. All right, so this is Leo, and I know that he looks like a pretty normal duck, but he was actually the worst case that I have seen when it comes to an abused duck. I will throw up some pictures right here of what he looked like when we first found him. As you can see, his feathers are completely soaked. We didn't know with what. It smelled really weird. It didn't really smell like it had just been water and mud. It smelled kind of oily and just like he hadn't had access to clean water in a really long time. You can also see his neck. We thought that he was a female at first when we first grabbed him because of his neck. It was just torn apart like you would see in overmating with females with too many males, and so we thought he was a female at first until we brought him home and I was getting ready to put him in the bath to bathe him, and he started making the male quacking sound, and I was like, oh my gosh. I told my boyfriend, I said, you need to get in here, this is a male duck. And when we got him, as you can see, he was such a dark color that when I first saw him I thought he was a khaki Campbell. And when I got him into our car, I looked down and I was like looking at his feathers and his bill, and I was like, oh my God. To my boyfriend I said, oh my God, this is a Peking duck. And he also had third-degree burns on his back underneath his wings, and I was just absolutely horrified. And I know that this didn't happen after he had been dumped. He had been abused and then dumped, so this isn't really a case of, oh, this could happen if a duck gets dumped in the wild. No, this was somebody did this to him and then dumped him, which is worse. But we brought him home, we bathed him, and we gave him a ton of like anti-infection spray. I'll throw a picture of that too. If you ever come across something like this spray works amazing. It literally started clearing up his burns within like 3 to 5 days. And because we weren't sure he was going to make it, we weren't sure if any of the cuts on his back or his neck were infected. We weren't sure. We just wanted to do what we could for him. But obviously, as you can see, he has made a full recovery and is now a very happy and productive member of our flock here in the wonderful state of Texas. So we are so beyond happy that we were able to get Leo before his injuries got too bad. We were able to treat him and we were able to help him make a full recovery. As you can see, the feathers have completely grown back on his neck, and I can't really show under his wings, but he's grown all new white feathers. You can't see, there's no scarring, there's no nothing. You can't see, he's grown feathers over it. He's doing so much better, and he's so happy. He's very happy here with all of his friends, so we're very thankful to have Leo in our lives. All right, so this is my most recent rescue, Onyx, and he's being kind of feisty right now. But as you can see, he's actually missing the front part of his bill, which is not why we rescued him, because I knew that it had been healed for a long time and it wasn't causing him any pain, so I didn't really set it as a cause to rescue him. Why I rescued him is I had seen that he had some fishing twine wrapped around his leg a while back, and it was very loosely wrapped, and I thought, oh, it'll fall off because it was so loose around his leg. And then I went home and I was thinking, I was like, gosh, like I should have caught him and I should have taken it off, because I feel like now I have a really bad feeling that at some point this is going to become an issue. Lo and behold, about a month later, we rescued him probably a couple weeks ago. We go back and he's limping, and I see it's the fishing twine that has now become so wrapped around his leg that it is cutting into his leg. And I told my boyfriend, I was like, we need to, at the very least, we need to catch him and cut this off of him. And I didn't realize the extent of the damage until we caught him, and I held up his leg and I started cutting the twine off, and as soon as I pulled it out of his leg, it started like oozing, and I was like, I can't leave him in the wild like this. He needs a disinfectant. We need to take him home. And so we took him home, and we disinfected his leg, and he's probably a little too feisty for me to be able to show it, but it's healed completely. He can walk normally again, and he's a very happy duck. It healed perfectly. He doesn't limp anymore. It seems to be like filling the slit in his leg where the twine was, seems to be filling in. He'll have a scar probably, but it doesn't seem to be bothering him whatsoever. So this is probably my biggest warning. If you know that the local pond is also a fishing pond, please do not put domestic ducks in that pond. I have another duck that I will talk about in a little while where I had to pull a fish hook out of her bill that had become lodged through her bill. I've also obviously had Onyx who had fishing twine wrapped around his leg, and it's not the first time I've seen this. Rosie also came to us with twine wrapped around her leg. Just do not put them in an environment where there is fishing going on, because they will likely get themselves tangled up in it. I know you're probably thinking like, oh, well, that could happen to any of the wild ducks. Well, I've seen plenty of domestic ducks with fishing twine wrapped around their legs. I've never seen that with any of the wild mallards. I don't know what that means. I don't know. They're just, the domestic ducks in a wild situation are much more vulnerable. Did I say wild? Domestic ducks in a wild situation are much more vulnerable than the wild ducks are. They can't fly. They can't run very fast. Their only source of protection is the water, and obviously they can't stay out there forever. So they need to be able to escape some other way. So please, if you know that your local pond is also a fishing pond, look at other options. Do not put your domestic ducks there. Something might happen to them. They could get caught in the fishing twine on land and not be able to escape from a predator and get attacked. There's just the possibilities for them to get injured are endless when it comes to an environment where there is fishing going on. So please just make sure that if it's your last option, it should never be an option. But if you're absolutely desperate and you have to put them in that wild setting, don't put them where there is any fishing going on, because that could be incredibly harmful to them. All right, so this is Rosie. She is the rescue that I was talking about, that I found her with the fish hook through her bill. I want to reiterate my warning from before. Please do not put ducks like this on a pond where there is fishing going on, because this can happen too often. She was obviously in pain. The fish hook had completely pierced through the bottom of her bill, and we had to cut it out because the barbed part had not pushed all the way through, and pulling it back out would have resulted in ripping her bill. So we had to cut it out. It's just very, very dangerous for them to be in that environment. We were very lucky to find Rosie. She is now completely healed. There's not even a scar where the fish hook had gone through her bill, and she's very happy here. So we're very thankful to have her as a part of our family now. All right, so this is Daisy, and Daisy is probably my best argument for why you should not dump wild ducks in the wild. So as you can see, if she'll let me lift her up here, Daisy has a very, very broken wing. If you don't like anything graphic, or if you watch this with your kids, you might want to have them close their eyes. I'm just gonna lift the wing. It doesn't hurt her at all. It's healed like this, but you can really just lift it at any angle and it just flops. So it's not fixable. It healed a while ago, just like this. It doesn't bother her at all. She's probably one of the spunkiest little ducks that I have. She's just an absolute joy to have around. But she is my best argument for why you should not put domestic ducks at the pond. Ducks, especially larger, heftier breeds like Pekins and white crested. I'm not sure which of these she is because she has such a tiny little crest, but one of the two. They are big and they can't run very fast. My theory with Daisy is that either somebody's dog attacked her or some four-legged animal predator came and attacked her, and she was not able to run away fast enough to avoid it, and she is very lucky that she only came away with a broken wing. People let their dogs off leashes at these ponds all the time, and it puts these guys at a huge risk when they cannot run fast enough to get away from predators. I mean, these guys can't even outrun me most of the time, and I'm jogging. So think about a dog running full speed towards them. Their reaction times aren't fantastic. They won't have time to get away. Mallards can fly. Obviously, they are small, and they're able to get off the ground pretty quickly to fly away from any predators. These guys cannot do that. If they're far enough away from the water, they won't get to the water in time. So please, before you decide to put a duck like this, a domestic duck in the wild, think about the kind of life that duck is going to have. They're not going to be happy. They don't have natural survival skills. They won't be able to forage as well as wild ducks. They're going to rely on humans for food in the wintertime when humans aren't coming because it's too cold. They won't have as much of a food source. So please just really think about it, because Daisy, when I found her, it just broke my heart because she was so happy. She was the happiest little duck I'd ever seen at that pond. She was just waddling around with this broken wing flapping at her side, but she still had if she was a human, she would have a very positive attitude. But it just breaks my heart that this happened to her, because it could have been avoided if somebody had just made more of an effort to rehome her instead of deciding to dump her. So please think about that before you put a domestic duck in the wild. All right, so this is Louie and this is Apple, and they are my youngest ducks in the flock. The heartbreaking story of these two is that I found them as ducklings, like probably less than a week old ducklings, out on this pond. If you know anything about ducklings, you know that they cannot survive for very long without a heat source because they can't regulate their own temperatures. So as soon as the temperature drops to a certain level, they can freeze. I found them out in the water. I had to lure them to shore. They could have gotten waterlogged very easily. If a predator had been stalking the shore, the other ones could have been floating around the pond perfectly fine, but these guys, they probably would have drowned if they had to stay in the water for long enough. So please, I can't believe I have to say this, but do not put ducklings, especially domestic ducklings, in the wild. Wild ducklings have a parent who can protect them and stay with them and make sure that they're okay. These guys did not. They're obviously domestic ducks. They didn't have parents. They were out in the water by themselves, and they were less than a week old. It was absolutely heartbreaking that somebody would do that. Obviously, I can't hold all 7 of them at once, but I also rescued a bunch of probably like 3 or 4 week old ducklings that somebody had dumped, 7 of them, which was also incredibly heartbreaking to see. So please think about rehoming before you put ducks in the wild. And if you're gonna get ducklings, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Do not get ducklings and then dump them as ducklings. That is, I guarantee you somebody on Craigslist or Facebook, in one of those duck Facebook groups, will be willing to take those ducklings off your hands. You do not need to dump them in the wild in order to rehome them. That's not a home for them. They will die. I feel very lucky that I was able to find these 2. They obviously had been dumped very recently. They were still fluffy. They weren't dirty like a lot of the other pond ducks usually are. They were healthy. I was very lucky to find them, and now they're growing up. Obviously, they're about 5 or 6 weeks old now. They're almost fully feathered. Apple is a little boy. Louie's a little girl, and I'm very happy to have them. They're adorable. I love them. But please do not put ducklings in the wild ever. They will not survive, and it'll be on your guilt. Your conscience will be very guilty, knowing that you probably killed 2 little ducklings, because unless they find a parent to take care of them, which they likely will not, animals usually do not take on young that aren't theirs, except maybe in a domestic setting like with chickens. I just know I used to have sheep, and I adopted these 2 orphaned baby sheep and tried to get them to suckle up with a mother that I had, and she rejected them. So I don't know if it's the same for ducks, but I wouldn't count on that as an option. Sometimes if they don't recognize it as their mom, they probably won't follow it anyway. So once they've imprinted to each other, it'll be very difficult for them to imprint on quote mother duck. I don't think it would work that way. So just don't dump ducklings in the wild. There's cute, and there will always be somebody who will be willing to take them. So please think about that before putting ducklings, baby ducks who can't protect themselves, into the wild. All right, so those are all of my rescues. They are fully recovered, most of them. I mean, the ones that came with some sort of injury that needed to be treated, they're all healed. They're all very happy. I will die on this hill. Do not put domestic ducks in the wild. It is not the right environment for them. No matter if you feel like what you're doing is right, if you feel like they would have a better life in the wild, that's not true. They are called domestic ducks for a reason. They are meant to be bred domestically. They are meant to live domestically. They are not meant to be in the wild. They don't have the same survival instincts. They can't fly to get away from predators. They're not very fast. They're heavy. They rely too much on humans for their food because they are domestic. They're bred that way to rely on humans for food. So when the winter comes and the mallards all fly, wherever they fly, where it's warmer, they won't be able to do that. And people always in the winter will not come as often to feed them. And so a few of them will likely starve. Such was the case when we first got here. and we went to the pond, and there were a lot of dead ducks lying around the frozen pond because they had frozen because they weren't getting enough food. Obviously, it's very difficult to dig in the snow for food, so they would rely on humans to feed them, and there wouldn't be a lot of humans to feed them because it was very cold. So please think twice. Like I said, I will make another video with resources that you can reach out to. If you are thinking of rehoming a duck, do not first go to putting them in the wild. It's not right for them. Even if you think you're doing the right thing, it's not the right thing for them. They need to be in a home where they are protected. All of the ducks that I rescued, I can say for 100% certainty, they're a lot happier where they are now. They have assured food, assured meals every single day. They have a pond, they have kiddie pools that they can swim in where they won't be chased into it by predators. They have a coop that they are assured safety every single night. And they have friends. They have friends of their own kind, and they're all very happy, and they're all very healthy. They all came to me malnourished because the diet that they were on, bread and corn and whatever they could find at the pond, was not a sustainable diet for them. So they are fed a very sustainable diet here. They are fed a mixture of layer pellets and veggies, and they forage during the day. So they never go unfed. So they're very happy here. And I'm very blessed to be able to rescue ducks and take care of them. And I will always rehome if it's absolutely necessary, but I personally will never put a duck in the wild ever. I will exhaust every possible avenue before I do that. I would rather keep a duck than dump it in the wild. I would make it work. So please just think about your other options before you put a domestic duck in the wild. It's so dangerous for them, especially with ducklings like Apple and Louie. They would not have survived if we hadn't rescued them. They just wouldn't have. And it's very sad that people think that is it's obviously an easy solution. You just put them in the wild. You don't have to take responsibility. You don't have to find somebody to take care of them, but it's really not the best option for them. It shouldn't even be an option for them. So make sure you do your research and exhaust all other possibilities. And even then, just don't do it. It's not good for them, and it may kill them one day. So thank you for watching this video. I hope that this has been educational for you guys, and I hope that anybody who is looking to rehome a duck will think twice before putting it in the wild. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.